Good evening, everybody. September 28th, 2021. More chop action from Bitcoin today. We came down to pretty much the same level where we had this sort of double bottom-ish looking thing here. We haven't broken through the level quite yet where I was going to stop out at 40,600. It's not looking particularly promising. And I would not be shocked if I did stop out, but you know, it's Bitcoin, and so anything can really happen still. None of this action is really signaling anything strongly to me. It's very possible that we just chop in this range for a while and we don't get a move down or up. So going to keep an eye on that possibility. But I guess the two scenarios where we have, some sort of movement either up or down are still potentially this red, which is going to have to be a diagonal. And at this point, basically this would be A and just a very, very low B here. And C is going to have to extend quite a bit to give us any sort of hope here to get up into a diagonal even. So I'm not sure how realistic that is. I think at this point it's more, based on the chart, it's more likely to see further downside happen. But even if that is going to happen, that is looking pretty much like it's going to be a choppy move down as well, which I noted yesterday. This original yellow count here, this 4 came up way too high, way higher than you would expect. Way higher really than it can for an impulse. So like if I draw a fib here from 3 to 2, the 0.5, the wave 4 should never go past the 0.5, and the 0.5 fib is right there at 43,745. So when this came up all the way up here to 45,200, it pretty much eliminated the impulsive move down as a possibility. We still are potentially making just a very convoluted 4 and a very weird diagonal. I don't know that I can even call it technically a diagonal, since it's not really following. I mean, that's kind of the best case scenario there, but we don't really have anything to connect. Like it would have to be 1 to 3 is where you normally connect. Like that doesn't work at all. So I don't really know what exactly it's doing here, but in any case, it is still possible that we get a dip down further into this 5, and because of how strange this action is, I believe if we get this, we'll probably move down. My best guess would be along this blue path here. Let me turn the wave on there. So something like this, where this is our 2, because that's an ABC up, right? And we should be moving down into a 3 right now, which can form, since we're in a diagonal, it can form either as a 5 wave or a 3 wave move. And it's really hard to tell because this 1, I don't know if we can discern any waves within that. Let's see if we go down really far here on the 5 minute. Here's that wave 1 on the 5 minute. I don't see 5 waves in there, so that's probably a 3 wave move with a really small B wave. So do we get the same thing again? We would probably expect that. So, a 3 wave move. Maybe we come up a little bit and then progress downwards into this 3rd, something along those lines is possible. And then we'd get 3 up in a 4, similar to what we had here in this 2. And then we would probably get one more move down after that, to maybe 35, 36, somewhere in that region is kind of what I'm thinking. But we'll have to see where this ends up bottoming if we in fact do break down. It's possible that even something like this, that maybe that's already our B, and will only come down just nominally lower than these lows here, which will be annoying because it'll stop me out, and then it'll likely pop back up after that, and I'll be annoyed, but it will very likely push down for one more small low after that. So these diagonals are really, really tricky to try to track. They don't give us good targets at all, but I think it's a fairly good idea still to start accumulating in that 38.5 region if we do break down and stop out. That's what I'll be looking for, is start accumulating there and be ready to buy in a little bit lower. And then this green line was our breakout line, if you remember, from all the way back here. We broke out and had a pretty decent move up off of that breakout. The volume was really not fantastic, unfortunately. So that's the only downside there. But if we could come down all the way to retest that and not break down below it, then that would be pretty good. So I'll probably just accumulate, if we drop more, I'll accumulate spot buying all the way down to like 36 or wherever that retouches there. And then I will just keep an eye on it. If we get a significant break below that line, then I'm probably going to stop out again on those buys. Now, all that being said, I did say, the possibility is still technically here because we haven't broken this 2. It's still technically alive that we could get this move up. Even if we break the 2, technically it could be sort of just resetting that 2, which again will annoy me, but we have to put our stop somewhere, and I really do think that if we break those lows, we're likely heading down here. That seems to be the best interpretation that I have at the moment. So we really just have to wait for this to give us more action, is pretty much the end result of all of that talking there. So we have a couple different paths. It's really unclear which way it's going to fall. I lean slightly in favor of the bears at this point, just because I really was not satisfied with this finish here. I didn't think that finished well, and we have not gotten any impulsive move off the lows. And so until we see that, I'm going to be kind of leaning more towards finishing off this scenario down here. Even if we chop, even if we continue chopping and we get a new high sort of up here, but then we reject down again, I mean, it could take quite some time. And I said that in the last video or 2, that this is not taking the easy path, and it doesn't look like it's going to have a quick resolution. So that is irritating, but I suppose it's also not necessarily shocking, since we are getting towards the end of the month here. So maybe it just kind of chops around until the end of the month, and then October can give us a quick push down, and then we start moving up off the lows. That'd be great for October, and finish off the rest of this year strongly. That'd kind of be the ideal situation that I see at this point. But I'll keep tracking this, obviously, and any indication that I get that we should be utilizing some different tactics, I will certainly let you know that. Let me see. I don't think there's really anything else I can say. RSI is really not giving us any clues. We do sort of have some divergence that happened here on the RSI. There to there is kind of divergent. So it wouldn't be surprising, and this action that we've seen since the daily close and the new daily opened has been kind of pushing upwards. So a little jump up here is not going to shock me at all, but it's really a question of whether this was enough to maybe reset things and now we can do a new impulse, or are we just going to continue chopping. And that's, at this point, my money's on just continuing to chop, honestly, but we'll see what happens with that. And I think that's pretty much it. Let's just take a quick look at the 4 hour. There is a bit of a divergence on that 4-hour RSI too, so that's a good sign for the bulls, at least for temporary relief, if nothing else. The RSI certainly has divergence there, and this 4 hour is set to close in 18 minutes. So unless it dumps in the next 18 minutes, that is going to close and confirm that divergence. So that's fairly good news. Our PPO is in this oversold region here. It's not the bright green that you'd really like to see, but we have had some decent bounces from these just dark green zones before. Decent bounce there. So I think we're probably relatively safe-ish overnight anyway, with these divergences playing out, to at least get another dead cat bounce. And then it's just going to be a question of, I guess, at this point, that trend line might be semi-important here. Crypto generally has not been caring much about these trend lines. It's doing false breakouts left and right pretty much everywhere you look. So even if we get over that, I'll still be wary, but getting over that trend line certainly cannot hurt. So I'll keep that on that chart and keep an eye on that as well. If that breaking the trend line is coupled with an increase in volume and a low time frame impulsive wave, then we might be in good shape to start seeing these slightly higher targets anyway. All right, I think that's pretty much all I can say. So good night, and we'll see where we are in the morning.